From the University of Nebraska-Lincoln's Center for Agricultural Profitability, this is Nebraska FARMcast. I'm Ryan Evans, and today we are taking a special look at some emerging trends and the future of the workforce. From the growing demand on the part of employees for more workplace flexibility to the importance of skills over degrees to many employers, businesses may face new challenges and opportunities in the coming years. I'm glad to be joined again by Dr. Cheryl Burkhart-Kriesel, an extension specialist with Rural Prosperity Nebraska here at UNL, to talk about a new article that she has published on our center's website at cap.unl.edu, looking at recent findings from the Harvard Business School on the future of workplace environments. Cheryl, thanks for joining me again.
You bet, Ryan.
So your article highlights this growing demand, as I mentioned a bit ago, for workplace flexibility. Seems like, probably post-pandemic when people were working at home, that creeped in and became maybe a little bit more reasonable for both sides. But that includes something interesting, I thought, caregiving options and even the possibility of a 4-day work week, you write. So how do you see rural businesses especially adapting to these trends and growing demands for more flexibility and benefits?
Sure. Well, again, like you mentioned, those trends, and there are a variety of them that were listed in this article, and I keep seeing them popping up in a variety of places as well. They're really keyed in on flexibility. I think both flexibility for the employer and for the employee. And so you ask about, how are rural businesses going to adapt to these? Well, it kind of depends upon the business, to be honest, and their creativity, I think, in thinking about how to pull that together and still have it make and work for that particular business. For instance, those linked like a physician's clinic or even a vet, they still have to have people on call all the time, but maybe there's some opportunities that they haven't explored in terms of like times and shifts and a variety of things like that, so that they can still be on call but get the work done and be there and still give good customer service. I think what it really takes is for rural business is a new way of thinking, and that can be a little bit of a challenge, to be honest. And some of these are not maybe radically new, but have businesses incorporate them. So like coming in early or staying late, or maybe that's where that 4-day work week comes in, or even splitting up a position between two people where maybe you've got different skill sets in both that could bring something special to your business, is something you haven't really explored before that's worth giving some time and thought about. Our lives are really busy and full on the employer side as well as on the employee side. The same thing holds true. So being open to new opportunities and on both sides, I think will really help down the road.
Yeah, great. And there's another new trend that we're seeing that's really interesting to me, where you mentioned employers are increasingly focusing on skills over formal degrees. And you point out the STAR acronym here, skilled through alternative routes. That's a concept that you write is gaining traction. So can you just talk about why we're seeing that shift to the emphasis perhaps on the part of some employers on skills over formal degrees, why that shift is happening and how you think it could impact the workforce, and obviously what that means for the businesses in terms of the training opportunities they have to offer?
Sure. Well, anytime I see an acronym pop up, I'm thinking, well, this is taking a little traction. And I think, to me, the skills through alternative routes, STAR, is kind of a nifty, an interesting, intriguing idea. But to me, probably where this came about and where this started really was with technology, because you find that there's a lot of certifications that those that are really heavy into technology have, and those are very short, specific, deep dive kinds of trainings, so that takes them to the next level. And I think that's kind of what is driving a lot of this. And if you think about it, with technology now embedded in absolutely everything, these new skills are needed all the time. And anybody who on the ag side who operates, let's say, a new piece of equipment, they know for sure that there is definitely a learning curve when you jump into that cab of that piece of equipment and realize, I'm going to have to spend some time figuring out how all this works. And there's usually, just like everything, way more there than you really want to get into right away. So that's a part of that skill-based training in my mind. So I think that technology is driving a lot of that. Another great example is just new things that are popping up. One in particular now, again, on the ag side, are drones. And so, that takes a whole new skill set. And I see a lot of training coming out, provided for people, especially if they're going to be spraying fields or doing any kind of aerial work at all. And so that's an example, for instance, on the ag side. On the retail side, quite often you've got new software for inventory and record keeping and management. And maybe it's not a whole deep dive into the particular training, but maybe an update that's needed. And so even having some notification or some certification that says that, yes, I am familiar with that, or I have been familiar with that in the past, can really help your employment and help the employer too. So it's a plus on both sides of the coin, I think.
Great. And then sticking on the employer side, as the workforce becomes more diverse, workplaces become more diverse in terms of age, culture, experience, are there things that managers in these businesses are going to be doing, or that you're watching for them to be doing, to become more helpful in their roles? There are things that are going to be more important for them to do as this workplace becomes more diverse.
Okay. Well, I think it may require employers or managers or those in that kind of a level in the organization to maybe turn up and become better listeners, I guess, because a lot of times employees will have skills and talents, perhaps, that are maybe a bit hidden. And those are talents and skills that maybe could be leveraged for in that organization or that business. It also may give you a hint of the kinds of things they need to make their life more in balance. And maybe there's that opportunity to do some things differently than you had done before. And that becomes a candid conversation between you and the people that you work with of how can we make this the best work environment possible.
Yeah, and you also write about this idea of career exploration adventures, which is a great phrase, and it's fascinating because this is an alternative to maybe a traditional linear pathway of a career and career advancement. So how can rural employers create an environment where their employees feel encouraged to explore new roles or even re-enter the workforce after they've had a break without those businesses losing that valuable talent and experience?
Sure. Well, I think in the past, we've somehow gotten into a bit of a rut where we've thought of a career path as this incredibly straight line, and you make choices based on this straight line. Well, in reality anymore, it's more instead of being like a highway, a major highway that speeds by really quick, it's really more of like a mountain bike path where you've got a lot of curves and dips and there's ups and downs, and you may come in and out of a kind of a career track, but you'll gain some more experience in one area and have some opportunities, and then maybe you might want to come back to it, but you have a new perspective and some new skills and insights that you can bring to that place. So it's not nearly as linear as somehow we've gotten to think over time. And I think that's a good thing. I think it allows both the employees and the employers to grow, as well as to use new opportunities and experiences and talents they may not have even thought about before. So I think it's a great opportunity.
Good. And when you consider all of these trends, how do you see them potentially shaping the business world, especially in rural communities, and even shaping the communities themselves as a whole in the coming years?
Well, I think what this is going to do, it's going to be a little bit of a push and pull. And I would believe that technology is going to be right there at front and center, probably doing a lot of that push and pull, as well as our desire to just have more balance in our lives, in our work lives. So I think that being said, it's going to be important for businesses to be open, to be flexible, to listen to their employees, so that it becomes a conversation about how we can really have the best work environment possible. And so for the employer, having great people by your side is a huge asset. And really it's like gold. It's a wonderful thing. And for the employee, having a great work environment is energizing. You want to come to work. You feel valued. So both sides have something to gain in making this happen. And so I think it's actually a change in mindset. And that change in mindset is really a small cost to pay to having that great work environment.
All right, that's Dr. Cheryl Burkhart-Kriesel, an extension specialist and professor with Rural Prosperity Nebraska here at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And you can find this new article that we've been discussing on the podcast in the notes for the podcast, as well as on our Center for Ag Profitability website if you check cap.unl.edu. Cheryl, thanks for taking time.
Thank you.
Nebraska FARMcast is a production of the Center for Agricultural Profitability at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. For the latest research-based information and education resources to manage your farm or ranch operation, visit our website at cap.unl.edu. That's cap.unl.edu.